Welcome to Re-Embroidered Conversations, a series rooted in my book, Hope Re-Embroidered. This space was created to explore the realities many people live, but do not always have the language to explain. The emotional, the psychological, and the systems around it. In previous conversations, we explored what it means to lose yourself, and how difficult it can be to even recognize what you are feeling. But what happens when that experience enters the legal system, when there are children involved, court orders in place, and yet people still feel unheard, unprotected, and powerless? Today, we are exploring that. Hi, Maz. What an honor
I
to have you here with me.
I am so humbled and I'm so grateful, and what an honor it is to speak with you, who I've just read the first 10 chapters of your book, and when I say that I am starstruck, that would be an understatement. Honestly, I was just telling you earlier beforehand that I'm an advocate for a lived experience and for somebody's lived experience, and when I read this book, these first 10 chapters, when I tell you, I felt like I was in a land that I'd never visited before. I felt the sun on my cheeks. I felt, like I said, that bit in my throat, that pain, that choke. Like I said, I haven't been moved like that for a while. So that book, I can, if it resonated with me, I am so grateful that you are putting this out there for so many other women to feel like, thank God, it's not just me. So
Oh,
thank you.
so
Thank,
emotional. Thank you
no,
so much. That means a lot to me.
thank you.
And this is a copy for you, and give you a
Oh,
hug.
stop it.
And give
Stop
you a
it.
hug. When you left me that voice on WhatsApp with the feedback after reading it, I literally was crying. I had
I
tears.
was crying. We were
I had,
both crying.
I, you have a purpose. You kept me going.
No, you have kept yourself going. Like, you have got through this. You have survived it. You have been through it and handled it so elegantly and, mashallah, so beautifully. You've kept your love, you've kept your kindness, you've kept your service, because when this happens to people, I always see that you can either go one or two ways. You go through, I'm on vengeance, everyone's getting it, right? This has happened to me. Now you're going to get it, and you're going to get it, and you're going to get it, and judge, you're going to get it too. Everyone's getting it, right? And I'm there and I'm like, please stop. Or you can provide a service and share and grow and use that opportunity to restore your faith, strengthen your deen, strengthen your worship. And like I said, when I go through hard times, it's people like you that remind me, okay, if they can get through it, so can I.
That means a lot to me. And people like you, people out there want to hear, they want to understand the system that's so complicated and confusing. That's why I just would like to know just, your role and the type of case you handle most.
Of course, yes. So I run a family law department. I'm a senior family caseworker. I'm coming up to about 10 years experience in family law, and I specialize in children cases and domestic abuse. And most of my work, Shad, is when things have already broken down, right? People come to me when there have been allegations of harm, control, saying that you're a risk, and people feel like they're walking into a system that may have already formed a view about them before they've even met them. And what I would say my role is to bring it back back to what actually matters, which is evidence, lived experience, patterns, and justice, because that's what it should be. I don't just see cases, I see people trying to hold themselves together for the sake of the children they love and the family that they have, whilst putting themselves aside.
I witnessed some people, they were many years in domestic abuse relationships. They don't think of evidence. They never recorded it. And as a
Yeah,
survivor myself, the amount of times I kept evidence, I deleted
yeah,
it. Fear. I know few people don't even have any evidence.
yeah,
So what do they do in that situation when it's time to provide evidence?
yeah. It's so you're completely right. When we talk about coercive control, it's coercive. You can't, how do you prove coercive control? It's a large proportion of my cases is when people don't have evidence because, of course, you're being controlled. Everything that you have, you eat, sleep, drink, you can't write something down. You can't leave something in your car. You can't leave anything in your bag. Of course, you can't do that. And the court recognizes that abuse doesn't always look obvious. And if they don't recognize it, they have to, because coercive control is recognized in law, right?
Mhm.
There is the coercive control. And if I can give you a quick example, I had a client, no physical violence, right? But every aspect of her life was controlled. And how I know this is because within his notes, he had a section of every time she went to the bathroom, how long for, when she came out, every neighbor that she spoke to, what time she would log on to her laptop because she had to work from home and then give him the money, what time she logged out. He would then share this to the family group chat as well. Now, this was finance, movements, everything. And she said to me, yeah, because he cared and he said that he wanted to protect me because I wasn't smart enough to be safe and the world is cruel. And that's exactly where the problem starts. Control disguised as care. Now, back to your question, when you said to me, okay, how do you prove that? How do we prove it? Shahad, when you've got somebody who knows the system, your words are enough. I always tell people I'm only as good as my evidence, and my evidence is your words. So you tell me what's happened and we will build on that together. I'll get that hard copies, but you have to be open with me and you have to tell me, because somebody lived experience counts. Because when women go through 50 years of marriage and they are with a very powerful man who has a very high status and they feel trapped and silenced and they get divorced, she flees and goes to a refuge whilst he's in a £3 million property, and now he's paid a lawyer for finances. You're going to need some help. You're going to need to prove that you contributed to that home. The only way I'm going to know that you contributed is you have to tell me. You have to tell me what happened when you woke up, what happened when you went to sleep, how you looked after the kids, how many times you had to cook, what happened when he came home and demanded tea on the table, when your in-laws used to come around and how long you used to cook for. I need to know what he would be like every time there was mess in the house, right? I need to know all of that. That is evidence. That's
What,
my evidence.
what they do, they somehow manage with their enablers to make you question yourself because you start to think, hold on a minute, um, they're scared of the court, they're even scared of the system, and I'm sure you have you experienced where they're scared from you even.
Yeah, of course. No, but if everybody's let you down in your life, firstly, and remember, let's think about I mean, you in your book, there was had flashbacks back to your mom and your childhood and what happened there. The court doesn't recognize historic trauma in a person. When you stand there and you fight for your children, nobody asks you, okay, but why are you so protective and why do you feel that way? What did you go through as a child? I had somebody that came to me and He's got 7 children, and his wife was a raving alcoholic and was addicted to drugs and social services. He would drop off the kids to school drunk and all sorts, but she loved her kids, and he protected her. He lied to authorities. He wanted to protect her. He loved her. They were childhood sweethearts, right? And he kept covering up for her, kept covering up for her, kept covering up for her. And in the end, professionals had a bad view of him because they couldn't trust him. And when I found out, when he went through therapy, I found out what happened when he was a child. He said that his father was an alcoholic and he had to protect his mom. And he protected his mom through all of his childhood. He was 11 years old, and his dad was beating his mom so much that the mom jumped out the window to go and get help, right? And he was 11. The dad then ended up beating him up, right? Because he was trying to save his mom. And he ended up in care for a week, and his mom let his dad back in, and it was just a cycle, right? But then I understood why he protected his missus so much. I understood because he saw his mom, and I got it, and I was, but the courts aren't going to see that, right? The courts aren't going to understand it. They're not going to see it.
Also, Cascas,
Oh,
if they're
yeah.
in social services, they don't see the other side of protection, or how do they see coercive control? Like, what does it look like to them?
Yeah. So, from a legal perspective, coercive control, it's about patterns. It's not about one incident. So it's the monitoring, the isolation, the financial restriction, the intimidation, the every time you want to go to your mum's house and you come home and they're in a mood, and all of a sudden you associate the fact that your mother with the fact that it's going to have a negative impact, so you stop going. And individually, they can be explained away, right? Individually, in cross-examination, you can say, well, that day I was having a bad day. But when you put it together and you cross-examine, so on Monday, this happened. On the 22nd of October, this happened. On the 3rd of February, this happened. It's a pattern. So it's a very clear story. And this is where cases are won or lost, whether the pattern is properly evidenced. Family court doesn't run on emotion. It runs on evidence.
Wow.
But your lived experience is evidence.
Wow. Someone is going experience many years of abuse, and they're trying to protect themselves. They're already trying to survive. So they file to the court for protection and then for child custody. Then the abuser start to say that the other parent has mental health issues. They're not a fit parent. And do you have any clients or any victims that you've helped that they literally don't remember any patterns, and they
Yeah,
just don't want to fight? They just
yeah,
don't want to be believed.
yeah. I had somebody that came in, and she was literally, when I say mute, she was mute. And she came in for an emergency non-molestation order, and oh God, it was so difficult. I was there for 3 hours, and I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking, okay, just tell me. The only way I can help you is if you tell me. Then she saw a nail on the floor. She saw a nail and she passed out, right? And she passed out, and, a support worker came, figured it out, whatever. And then she went out and got her a cup of coffee, told her to come back, whatever. So come back another day. She said, no, I'll do it. When I started taking her evidence, I found out that what he would do is get a nail and in the middle of the night, scratch her thighs and her legs with the nail until they would bleed. And she had PTSD from that. And we got her their ex parte non-molestation order. She was scared that she could never go to the temple again. We got her that. He wasn't allowed to go to that specific temple because the non-mol covered that. And now she's opened up a charity within that temple to help other abused women. But
Wow.
this is the thing. It's what you're saying is completely right. It wasn't easy. It was really hard. She fought me. She
Yeah,
fought me and she said, Maz, you don't understand. I don't want to do this. I'm not going to win. It's not going to happen. Even when we get the protection, I'm still not going to be protected. He's still going to have control. And that is trauma. That is all embedded trauma. And a lot of it is actually rooted to the inner child. Your inner child is screaming out that nobody's going to protect me, nobody's going to look after me. And again, when I found out more about her story, I found out that her dad basically got her married. And when she told her parents about this abuse, they said that if you leave him, you'll bring shame on us. So all she's been looking for her whole life is that protection. Why would she believe that I'm going to help her?
of course. From my experience also, that be careful, the system can take your kids away, don't share information. So as a survivor myself, I was so scared if I say anything, my children will be taken away from me.
Yeah.
So when a professional is trying to come and speak and say what's happening at home, the amount of times I said nothing, nothing. So I can see this pattern and why it happens. The concept, like you mentioned, that guy protecting his wife constantly because of fear.
I try my best to let people know, get legal advice early, get some help early. Let me tell you what steps you need to take. I'll never put anyone in danger. I understand cultural abuse. I understand cultural dynamics. I understand that sometimes you can't speak to your parents because they will isolate you, they will shun you, they will disown you, the threats. I get all of that. I get that if you call the police, when it comes to family, you'll seem like, even if your other half tried to stab you, God forbid you call the police, then you're the evil one. Then you're the problem. How could you do that? How dare you? And then all of a sudden you're the bad guy, right? I get all of that. I understand it. It's very easy to say, call the police, right? But when you're in it, that's the last thing you want to do. The last thing you want to do, because then as well, you don't want the kids to see, that you don't want the kids to be exposed, especially you don't want social services to get involved, God forbid. But if you got a good lawyer on your back, that's got your back, that will fight for you, that will say, no, we know their situation, we know their case, that we've written this down, it's on log, it's on record, then at least we can give you a little bit of security.
That is really reassuring. But the thing is, what early signs do people tend to overlook before things escalate?
Early signs. The red flags. So I do this. I do this a lot when I get people to go back and tell me their story from the beginning. People, signs that you think you dismiss, you go back and you're like, oh God, I didn't even realize. Now that I look back, that's an early signs. Early signs such as text me when you get there and text me when you leave.
Wow.
I don't like your friends and I don't think they're good for you. You get easily influenced. That the whole friends thing, now the reason why that's low-key controlling is because that person is making you undermine your own intuition, making you feel like you are not intelligent enough, you are not emotionally aware enough, and you are not smart enough to make decisions for yourself. And they don't trust you enough to be associated with somebody, get hurt, and be okay. Because we're all going to get hurt one day. Friendships break and they make. That's all right. That person is meant to be your rock, right? They're not meant to put fear in you. They're not meant to instill fear in you. Things like, I'll deal with the money. I've got this. It sounds really small. And a lot of people will be like, oh my God, Maz, you're being so dramatic. That means everything is controlling. But from that, it builds. I've seen hundreds of clients where it's the same things at the beginning, right? And some of my clients, a lot of them, they always come to me saying that they thought that they were the problem at the beginning. And part of my role is helping them understand what was actually happening to them at that time.
Is it very difficult to make them see?
No, because when you've got the law, and if there is the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, there is the Family Act, there is the Children Act 1989, there is Practice Direction 12-day that speaks about how domestic abuse is relevant when it comes to children. If the law is saying it's wrong, you can't argue with it. You don't have a choice, right? And I always say this to a lot of individuals that come from ethnic minorities, a lot of Asians, Pakistanis, Indians, Afghans, everyone that come to me and say, yeah, but Maz, that's how it is in our culture. They have to wear shalwar kameez, they have to wear a dupatta on their head or a scarf on their head when they come. That's the way our culture is. Well, try explain that to the judge, right? You can I mean, that's the way your culture is, that's fine, but you live in England.
Exactly. And I just wonder, do they feel that when they go to court, they are protected from your experience? How accurate is that?
Okay, I need to be clear on this. um Protection exists, but it's not automatic. You can feel everything. Whether we like it or not, the court is looking at what you can prove. And that's the hardest part. Because when you're being controlled, like we said, you're not thinking about evidence. You're trying to survive it. So, no, you may not have the perfect proof at the start, but that doesn't mean you don't have a case. It does not mean you don't have a case. Your lived experience matters. The key is turning that lived experience into evidence the court can recognise. So timelines, patterns, messages, behaviour, and getting your day in court and getting that person on the stand and looking them in the eyes and cross-examining them on those patterns. And that's where strategy comes in, Shahad, because in family court, it's not about what just happened, it's about how it's presented, all right? And if it's presented well and it's done properly, even the most subtle forms of abuse and control can be made visible.
But just wondering also, what if someone can't afford? I know for survivors, they get legal aid. But what if someone can't prove that they are a survivor and they don't not financially equipped to protect themselves through a solicitor?
So what I would say is, okay, for a non-molestation order, you can do it yourself. It's really easy. You do your statement. You can go to a domestic abuse company that can help you write it. And if you're in urgent, significant, if you're worried about tomorrow waking up and this person is going to be at your door and they're not on bail and the police won't handle it, get your non-mol. That non-molestation order will be your gateway evidence for legal aid, which means that that is evidence that you're a victim of domestic abuse. You can do that yourself. You can also go to a domestic abuse agency, get a support worker. That support worker can give you a letter, and that letter you can also use for gateway evidence as well to tell the legal aid agency, I'm a victim, here's my evidence, here's my proof. And then you just have to prove that you're on benefits as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, where do you see the biggest gaps in protection?
Delay. I
Delay
said
from.
delay in proceedings, delay in children being in the midst of the unknown and routine and regularity. I think the gap is also in inconsistent understanding, and sometimes assumptions from the court being made too early without hearing that person out, which is why I say I like to represent the underdog. Underdogs are very difficult to deal with, I'm not going to lie, because at the beginning. That's why I love them. I always have. I was always friends at school with the people that nobody else that didn't have any friends. Like I always gravitated towards that person. Even when I was little and I would go to the mosque with my mom, like I would always be like at the back, like back with all the other girls that didn't really have any other friends. And my mum would be like, come and pray now, come and pray now. I'd be like, yeah, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. But I was friends with them because nobody else liked them because they weren't religious enough or they weren't like obedient enough. Or do you know what I mean? Like I've always been like that. But anyway, I'm drifting off.
No,
Um,
it's okay. That's fine.
but I think that the gap is also this, you know, this one size fits all approach that families don't all function the same. Every family is different. There's culture, there's history, there's dynamics. Everybody's granddad is different. Everybody's grandmother is different, and they all matter. Yet sometimes the system, well, feels like a lot of the time, the system applies one lens to very different situations. And that's where things, I feel, get missed. But it takes a couple of court hearings to get that in there. Context gets lost, lived realities get simplified, and you've only got an hour in court and half an hour the other side is speaking, and you've only got one statement that you're allowed to prove. So it takes time. It does take time, and it's frustrating. I've sat across people who come across incredibly strong, really strong, but they're exhausted from having to prove their reality. They don't want to. And when that happens, it's not just frustrating, it's unfair. And where there's injustice, that's where I step in and I have to challenge it, because your story shouldn't just be reduced to assumptions, but it's not going to be a one hearing thing. It's not going to take one hearing. It's going to take a couple of judges. It's going to take some good strategy. It's going to take some strong evidence, and it's going to take a lot of challenging, right? But it won't be overnight, but it will take time, but you have to be willing to go through that fight.
Someone has children, right? And Kafka's in the picture. If that person can't express their emotions, would they judge based on emotions, on the way they're speaking?
So, talk about this a lot. Insight. You have to show insight. I had somebody that came to me the other day, and I said, okay, all these reports say that your children know that daddy is angry. That daddy is angry, and when daddy used to come home, they would be scared because there would be an issue. Maz, that's not true. I never argued in front of the kids, not once. I never shouted in front of them. That never happened. Okay, so your kids are lying then. So they're like, yeah, they're making it up. They're making it up because their mom is saying it. I said, okay, that's fine. All right, cool. So are you, in this time that this was raised, were you happy in your relationship? No, I wasn't. I wasn't happy. Okay. And are you saying that your children that have your DNA, that come from you, don't feel that? Don't feel your unhappiness or your shift? Are you saying that your kids don't have that emotional intelligence? So when you used to come home, were you happy? Well, I never even used to speak to her. Well, then obviously they knew that you were upset, right? Obviously, because for a child, the two people that they love the most in this world is mom and dad. Even if mom and dad are the worst people ever, they still love you. It's unconditional. They may be naughty, they may say nasty things, but they still want your approval. So are you telling me that when you come home from work and you put your bag down and you say salam to your wife and you brush her off and you have no communication, that your kids don't feel that? Because they do. They're a lot more entwined than you think. And that's insight. Knowing that
Wow.
knowing that how you are or your behavior has affected your children is insight. And that's what Kafkas need to know. Whether or not you understand that, whether or not you understand the impact of how your relationship had on the child. Now, there's more than a 50% divorce rate in England. Relationships are going to break down. That is not illegal. That's okay. You can say my relationship was bad. Yes, that's not illegal. That's not a problem. You're able to say that. We didn't get on. We didn't have a good relationship. We tried to make it work for the kids. And now, in hindsight, I realise that staying together may not have been best for the children because they were probably exposed to conversations they weren't part of. But I want to move forward. I want to co-parent, and I want to put my differences aside. And I want to focus on them. That's insight. And
Wow.
it's also very difficult for, again, men from ethnic minorities to show that, because they were never taught as children to express how they feel or understand somebody else's feelings, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
may say, again, I may sound very I'm not saying this for every man, but a lot of males, um, there is this culture that a mother's son should be protected, and they shouldn't really, whatever they say goes, and however they feel is important, and forget however but everybody else feels. So forget how my daughter feels, forget how my
Yeah.
sister feels, however you feel is important. So that 10-year-old boy, they're now a 32-year-old man with children.
In a miserable marriage. Then when he wants to make things work, then the children tell social services or Kafkas, we don't want to see that.
Mm.
Is that, do you come across situation like this where
Yeah,
children say we don't
all
want to
the
see?
time, all the time, all the time. Look, when a child is with a resident parent, they are going to say whatever that resident parent says or wants, because that is their safe space. That is that they are not going to challenge the parent that they are living with. They're not
Can
going
they be
to.
proved? Can they be proved wrong? Like if children say that and insist, can can they see through that?
So this is where it needs to be built, and your evidence needs to be built as well. If you show that pattern from beforehand of the behavior and the character and the coercive control, then that drip feeds, and I'm getting this from your book as well, the drip feed chapter. Then it drip feeds. Can you see? I'm your biggest fan, honestly. It drip feeds onto the children after that. That shows the pattern, doesn't it? You can show that in court when you cross-examine somebody on behavior, and then you say, okay, so now we've figured out that coercive control happened, findings have been made, and the children are now saying this. Kafkas have to take that into account, and your lawyer has to put that forward.
When you see these situations arise where court order exists, but contact is still effectively blocked from the control.
Frustrating, isn't it? I mean, what's the point of going to court? Like, you go through all of that, your life is on a string, and you're going through 2 years of going through court, and it finally happens, and
The
still in the
parent,
same place.
the parents is like, oh, let's block their mobiles, block contact with the other parent. So, I mean, what what can they do? Because it's a bit frustrating. Because when the child starts saying, "We don't want to see dad," then there's no contact with the children, and even though you have contact in place, you're like, what's the point if I go on that specific day if my children won't come outside and my ex is causing problems? You know what? I'm just not going to be in my children's life anymore.
So, orders create structure, yes, but it doesn't change behavior. They don't, unfortunately. It just doesn't. I've had clients with protection in place, but the control doesn't stop. Post-separation abuse is very real. It just changed its form. But that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
The control doesn't stop. It just changes in form. So if you've got knowledge, child, what do you need to get? You need to get evidence of those patterns, don't you? Because that's what you know the court will listen to. How the control has shifted and changed. Okay, so indirect contact, it's being blocked. What time it got blocked. What happened when you went to go pick them up. Every time that the children were sick before contact. Now, that, again, can be challenged. 100% it can be challenged. It comes to a point where you put these patterns in front of the court so many times where you may have to go to court 3 or 4 times, right, for 3 or 4 different proceedings before that judge finally makes a debarring order, puts their foot down, and says enough is enough. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people are going to say, but why do I'm not going to go through all that pressure. I'm not going to have to go through that. But this is where insight comes in, because it's not about you. it's not about you anymore. These children didn't choose whether or not to be here. They didn't choose whether or not to be part of this cycle. So the court also want you to see whether or not you have insight and whether you're willing to put your children first before the stress that you have to go through.
Is there any situation or experience you came across where another parent had so much issues with contact they just given up on seeing their children because of their abusive parent, other, the one who has full custody, or just give up, don't they?
Yeah, but I'm not professionally obliged to, but I really try and hold people's hands through it. And I say that you really need to go through something like this. I'll be honest, if I was ever in that position, I wouldn't be able to represent myself. I wouldn't. I couldn't separate myself like that. I would need somebody level-headed on the outside to guide me through it. My emotions would not be able to take it. And I've honestly, Shad, I've thought about when I meet people and they hear this, I'm up at night and I think, God, like, I'm so not grateful, but like, I have a purpose. I have, because God forbid if it was me, I would need somebody there. I really, really would. And people do give up, but I think faith comes into it. You need strong support. You have to, support is the biggest thing, right? If you got strong support, you got people holding your hand, you got friends, you got family, anyone, you got, a relationship with your creator, in a higher power, anything. You need that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it's just this the lack of knowledge. That's why this conversation means so much. Because I'm sure people want to understand what do people commonly misunderstand about family court.
Ooh. People often think that if there's no evidence, it's not true. That you can have allegations made against you, and and you can have allegations made against you, and if there's no evidence, then you just get off lightly. That's not true. Family court works on threshold, and people compare the family court a lot to criminal court. Criminal court, there's that balance of probability, that 51% that you have to prove. In family court, it's threshold, right? So say, for example, I'm at home, right, and there's a child with me, and somebody calls the police and says, we've just heard that Maz has a knife in her hand and she's held it up to the child. And the police come and there's no knife there, right? They have to act and they have to inform local authority because the threshold is met, because the child is the most important thing. So they have to secure that, right? Is it fair? No, because there wasn't even a knife there. But it's just the way it is. That is the way it is. And it's very different to criminal. So you have to challenge, you have to put forward your evidence, and you should clear your name 100%. And let me add another thing. Not all conflict is genuine. Some of it is control through the process. When there's repeated applications, keeping somebody tied throughout the court proceedings. And a lot of cases is when the case itself becomes a form of control, litigation abuse.
So sometimes this information can be used to target the victims.
Yeah, I've had victims where their postnatal depression has been used against them, their anti-anxiety medication has been used against them, their bad relationship with their mothers have been used against them. Just things that are, the family court is a massive invasion of privacy, can I just say? Massive invasion of privacy, right? It's like there's a lens within your home that all these strangers are looking into and all these professionals are making judgments on it. And it is really triggering, right? And I, like I said, I would. feel very, if it was me, I would feel something about it. But
Yeah. It's
again, it's really important for people to remember that they don't know you. They do not know you, right?
mhm.
And you have to understand that you are just a number. Do you
Yeah.
think that you're the only case that they have? No. See, hundreds of it, right? It's a tick box exercise. You go through the process, you challenge, and you deal with it.
Yes. Yes. So, if someone is at the beginning of this process,
Yeah.
what should they be doing immediately?
Oh, okay. Start saving your messages. Start getting your timelines, your chronology sorted, your chronology of events, because especially if you're going to forget things and things are traumatic and you're going through a hard time, start writing things down if you can. Being consistent, okay? And every time you do or act something, think about how will it help me in court? And getting your third party evidence, getting support, getting witnesses, getting statements. I've seen cases purely turn because one party remained calm and documented everything while the other exposed themselves through their behavior. Silence doesn't protect you in court. Silence has never helped us. Silence has never protected us. Speaking out and getting ready, evidence does.
Yes. Yes. It's it lived experience. I really believe silence never helps victims. What mistakes do you see people make early on?
Ooh. I think early on, I think they allow, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but it's just something to be mindful of, is allowing the emotional impact to come through within the court system. Expecting the court system to care about your feelings and having an expectation that people are going to understand you. They don't want to understand you. They just need to make orders safe for the children, whether
That's
we
it.
like it or not. It's true. It's true. And I think that once you manage your expectations and you understand this is the way it works, I've done my research, I know the tick box exercise, I know what I need to do. Then when you speak to professionals, you'll do it in a way that protects you even more. Right. And I think another mistake is people end up attacking the other parent too much to professionals. And it's really difficult to not seem like you're doing that. But what to do is, say, for example, you've got a safeguarding concern about your ex-partner and you don't want to seem like you're attacking them. Make sure you make it relevant to the impact that it had on the child. So instead of saying, I went through this, I went through that, it was really hard for me, he used to do this
Wow.
for me, she used to do that for me, you say, when this happened to me, this had an impact on the child and my ability to parent. So just link it.
Wow. And then would would the would they look into it to see if this is true? Does Kafkas or social services speak to the child to make sure that that parent is not making it up?
Yeah, they can. They can. But I would also be mindful as well, is I'm not a big fan of too many professionals speaking to children. I don't like that. I try and advocate that as less professionals as possible for children is better. So they can, yes. Um, However, you can also suggest whether or not there should be something called a 16.4 guardian, which is an advocate for the child as well, somebody to speak on behalf of the child.
Mhm.
Um, and there are people that really don't like guardians, by the way, and they think that they're completely not advocating for the child. But like I said, they do speak to your children. They can speak to your children. However, you do have a right to say about the impact that that has on that child and whether or not you as a parent think it's beneficial because you're at home with them, you know what they're going through, you see their behavior change.
But also, Mas, What emotional impact do you see this process having on the people you work with?
God. It's hard. It's really hard. It's difficult. It can either make or break you. And I see the impact it has on people long after their case ends. People who are composed in court and then completely break down afterwards because they're holding it together in a system that doesn't always reflect what they've lived. However, when you fight and you're strategic and you get ahead of the game, I see people come out stronger than ever. And like I said, end up giving back because you've fought a system
Yeah.
that doesn't reflect what you've lived, and it's been proven, and you've won, and they've seen it, and finally you've been heard. And that massive weight, like, honestly, Chad, when you go through the story with clients, and they tell you everything, and you fight for them, and you go through challenges, and you cry with them, and you laugh with them, and you see the worst of the worst, and the impact that it has, and the late night messages and emails, and the frantic and the worry, and then you get to that final hearing, and that judge just ends up saying everything that you thought they never would. It's that switch that I see in people, and that, like, you go from a point where you still don't believe it after a bit. You still don't believe it, and you still fear, but it can happen. It can happen.
I'm sure you have witnessed many times and experienced through your clients. What does it mean when control continues even after separation?
Post-separation abuse and litigation abuse is real, and control can take form in many ways. Even delay can enable control. Like I said, repeated applications, making out that every single time that the other parent has contact, they return the child and they say that the child has a bruise, the child has an ear infection, there's something wrong with the child, that you're 5 minutes late, even though you've got 3 other kids and you're trying to manage finances by yourself. And I mean, the post-separation abuse doesn't necessarily correlate, and where a lot of people do feel that in the moment, that this post-separation abuse is still going on, which means that the system is clearly designed to harm, right? Because it was there to protect me and it's still happening. But what I feel it does mean instead is that people need strong strategic representation to make sure that post-separation abuse doesn't happen, because I'm very aware that abuse doesn't just stop at the final hearing. Abuse will still carry on.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree, Maz. I do. Worth fighting until the end. Because then, like you said, when it's over and you are heard and believed, survivors need to be believed. Because I'm sure from your experience working with survivors, that's what they struggle with. Even they don't believe themselves at times. It's like, were we really abused? Is it that bad? But what needs to change to better protect people, Maz?
We just need to speak up. We just need to speak up. We need to normalize conversations. We need to sit in discussions and sit around people and talk about taboo things. We need to be brave enough to speak about honor-based and cultural abuse. And we need to talk about how that's impacted our adulthood. And we can say that we love our parents. We can say that we love them unconditionally, but things were toxic. And that is okay. We need to make it apparent. We need to get used to it so we can teach our youngers and our children the same thing, because they're going to learn from it. We need to make it normal that speaking out is not shame, and that just because you are saying that you have been abused does not make you weak. And we need to change the narrative now. We need to get men, strong men, that know that they are in their masculine entity to sit and have these conversations and still feel like they're in their masculine entity. And we need them to speak up on behalf of women as well. And we need men to sit up and say, do you know what? This is wrong. And I don't want to do that. And I would not want my daughter to go through this. And I'm not okay with it. And in hindsight, the behavior that I showed was wrong. And I also think that women should need to take more accountability too. And we also should not just label ourselves as victims, because we are powerful. And every victim I see is not a victim. They're a soldier. Genuinely, they are a soldier. That I don't see victims, I see warriors, genuinely. And if only, I wish that they saw themselves the way I do, because I just, if you can, a lot of women don't make it through. Shahad, a lot of women don't survive. They don't. And a lot of men don't reunite back with their children because they give up and they don't fight. And they end up living their life of bitterness and thinking that everyone is the same and being alone. And humans aren't meant to be alone. We're meant for human connection. Nobody can survive alone. Everybody wants to be loved, and that is okay.
Wow, well said. That is so powerful and so inspiring. Maz, what would you say to someone watching this right now who feels overwhelmed, unheard, and unsure what to do next?
I just want to say that my job doesn't mean I don't see the human side of this. I'm aware that people carry trauma and people have lived experiences that don't just disappear. They drip feed over time, and as your book reflects so powerfully, it can spill into relationships, into parenting, and into childhood. And that part is real. But what I also see every day is how easily that history gets stripped away in the system. Professionals have the ability to reduce years of lived experience into just a few lines, or dismiss patterns because they don't fit neatly into evidence. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because before someone is labeled difficult or emotional, they're often being gaslit, undermined, and made to question their own reality. So, Shad, one thing I can say clearly for people who are feeling overwhelmed, your lived experience is your reality. Don't let anyone minimize that. The system isn't always going to recognize it immediately, but that doesn't make it any less real or any less important. And your case, your one case, can change cases for the long run, for history. Your one case can make a difference to all the other people that are going to come forward that have been in your position. And the right approach is making sure that reality is actually seen properly and in full context.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. And thank you for being part of this conversation and for bringing
No.
clarity to something that is often misunderstood.
No, I cannot thank you enough. I am so excited to receive my own book. I'm going to put it on a stand. I'm going to show off to everyone. Honestly, I'm going to go into court and be like, everyone, don't talk to me. Okay? Just please.
I'm
I'm
so
winning already here. All right. You don't know who I know.
you make a difference, and thank you for being here and doing this amazing job, amazing work. We need you. We need people like you.
That
I'm
wallahi, I'm a genuine, and thank you, but I'm nothing without people like you. I'm nothing without people that put their trust in me. They don't have to. I would not be in the position if it wasn't for people like you and individuals that come to me. Alhamdulillah, I'm so, so blessed. And like I said, it's such a hard job, but conversations like this make me so grateful. So thank you. Wallah, thank you. Thank you.
for trusting this space with me This means a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon, hopefully to the book launch.
Ah, definitely. Mate, I'm going to be the first one there and the last one out. You might
I'll
have to get security to drag me away. I'm going to be like,
try to
this is
bribe you.
our book launch. This is our book launch. Okay, I don't know if you know who I am.
You are amazing, Maz.
No, Jazakallah, Jazakallah. Thank you so much.
What this conversation reminds us is that even when systems fall short, understanding what is happening is a form of power, and naming it is often the first step in changing it. This is Re-Embroidered Conversations.